Ayo, look back for July. How did you do crowdfunding wise? What regrets, what deep regrets do you have from 2022 and 2023 in this video? Because truth be told, I'm not milking it, right? 2022 and 2023 did not have the gangbusters of crowdfunding campaigns like 2024 does, right? So we're combining them into one video, and we're going to go through them all as quickly as I can because your time is money. So what do you need to know? Where are things at? How do you feel about them now? Do you have any? Haha. Yow! Put my glasses down. Deep regrets. Let's go. Yeah, I went CSI Miami on you. I just couldn't resist. It was too good of a setup. First up, let's go with one that I really still don't have a freaking clue what to tell you about it, right? Mordred Simon, one of their last-ish over on Kickstarter before they defected over to GameFound, right? And again, on the surface, Mordred as an area control in the lines of their previous ilk that they're known for, your Rages, your Ankanators, as well as your Rising Suns. I mean, the pedigree is there, but now you have a different designer, obviously, too. I would argue this, apart from the Genesis Clan Wars, which that's a whole nother issue, and Gods of War, which I would argue vastly underachieved comparatively, this one was, at that point, probably one of the biggest underachievers in the last 3 to 5 years for CMON. Not even $700,000 for them. And I don't think it's because of... I don't really have a great reason why. I don't know if it's saturation. I don't know if it's just people, exclusivity. If it was like, from my standpoint, it was kind of, what is this stuff doing differently? Like, how does this compare? What are we actually seeing differently here? Right? It was sort of just not knowing what some of these mechanics are going to be as a whole. It reminds me more so in the biggest unknown, a la the Dune War for Arrakis situation, where I'll speak for myself here, not for anybody else. And Dune War for Arrakis pre-order on GameFound right now. It still irritates me when I think about it. But it was kind of a question mark. Could they pull off this coup, essentially, right? The Lord of the Rings, War of the Rings sentiment, could it be duplicated? And the overwhelming sentiment was kind of like, maybe exclusive FOMO, I'm gonna get CMON a game, here you go style of things. Not like I'm super like, I'm gonna prove you wrong and I know I'm right style of things. And that's how I feel this one is, right? I mean, the art is fantastic. I love the sort of King Arthur vibe, right? That is my ilk. Avalon, upcoming Rivenvale, like I like that thematic incorporation in general, so I'm a little simp biased towards it. But the gameplay on this was just kind of like, well, what is the actual difference going to be? Is it going to be more Marvel United doing the War for Rockets, or something else that's neither of those in terms of what you want versus what you're getting? And I just felt like people didn't know what they were putting out here. I didn't think there was a huge hidden sort of mechanic issue, but it was just sort of like, what is it really giving us? A lot of the stuff was talking about, just like on a lot of the CMON campaigns, right? Well, here's your 37th iteration of random character. Here's your 37th random iteration of monster. What's the actual difference between the ones I have and these ones? And I'm only going to use 3 of these a game, and you're giving me 27 of them, and I'm going to pay $200 for that? Like, at what point do you start going, not quite worth it? And I think there was a rule book out during the campaign, but that was just sort of the big question of, what am I getting here with this one? And I'm not sure I feel any more confident looking at the page right now than I did during the campaign. And you can see the articles that are linked to here. The one gameplay live from Dice Tower, which again, like I gave kudos when DC Heroes just launched, not only having like 3 or 4 gameplay videos, but also having Board Game Co. review, which again is a stark contrast to this, right? And that's part of the issue. You give me one gameplay and a slight rulebook. That was the big question mark, though. And do you feel any compunction towards this? And the fear I have, I guess we'll talk about that in a second after we go to seeing where things are at, because spoilers, right? And the latest update, unfortunately, is just like, hey, look, we've got more pieces done. We've got the resins done. We're getting the plastics done for all of the miniatures. So that whole August 2024 thing, yeah, you're not getting it in 2024. Sorry, not sorry. Which brings up where I was going with that, right? Is CMON going to continue to branch out with the Degenerates, the Gods of War, the Mordreds, right? Because of the projects that are funding and not funding, well, the ones that are newer-ish, IP-ish stuff is not, and the ones that are repeat, retreads, rethemes, reincorporations are. So if you be surprised if a lot more of that is not going to happen in that way. But I don't also know what to make of it because of the whole GameFound situation, because they're literally, so far this year, 7 months in, it's like 7 games. So you don't have enough established IPs to put out one every month in that sense. So you're going to see some wavering there, I'd argue. But again, like, that's a lot of gameage. That's a lot of stuff to have out just floating in the abyss. But that raises the other question. Gosh, combining shipping. Because they got Multiverse and Cthulhu Death May Die, 3 and 4 delivering right now. But if you're in North America like I am, it's really irritating because the West Coast containers have literally arrived and people have their games. The East Coast containers, at the time of me filming this, are still a month out from port, which means it's going to be 3 weeks at least after it hits port that you even maybe going to get your game. Like, one, you just bundled up shipping those games together, essentially, is all that tells me. I don't know if that was hidden or if I just wasn't paying attention, because again, I'm one of those backers who just kind of, half skims, a quarter of the, updates. So that could be on me. But at the same time, the next one we're going to talk about, again, is still, I think, open for late pledging, which, again, going through the GameFound page, it's always illuminating to see the difference because they do the whole updated page, and then they allow you to click on the original, and that's Planet Moon with the Planet Unknown, the Supermoon expansion. I'm doing really well. This is gonna be a great video if this is how we're starting off tonight, folks. So I looked at this, and I have a copy. I have a retail copy. Lazy Susan is an amazing thing for these tile layers. I mean, it's probably the best invention for the genre as a whole. But where I'm going with this as well is they said flat out on the page or within the page or in the rulebook or wherever it was, you know what I'm saying, that expansion is going to add like 15 minutes per game. And I was like, I don't really know that I really need this game to have more. I'm not going to argue that, again, expansions like this will sometimes address minor critiques or criticisms. But this is one of those longer tile laying games, I feel like, in the first place. Comparatively in the genre, not like, but again, don't put words in my mouth, but you know what I'm implying, comparatively as a lighter-ish gamer overall. And I'm going 15 or 20 minutes more, not the first time around, but maybe the second or third time you're playing it with people. Man, that screams, for my table in particular, and no one else's, no generalizations, no assumptions, no making an A out of you and me, whatever it is, right? That it's going to maybe overstay its welcome a little bit. And I don't mind this game. I like it. But I've also, ever since I gotten it, never really had the feeling that I'm like, wow, I really want to go play that over other games. I'm not even going to say other tile laying games, but just other games in general. And therein lies my dilemma. If I can't get that played, if I have trouble games I love, like Isle of Skye with tile laying with a couple of expansions with the big box up there, which is freaking amazing, and that's having a lot of trouble, how is this going to fare? I don't need another expansion, however cool it's going to add stuff to and FOMO-wise, and I can deluxify it now because people are selling it for double on the secondary market between campaigns. I just don't need it. And again, going back to the GameFound page, right? $600,000 difference. $600,000 in the Pledge Manager. And that's the other place that I think is really interesting to see. I guess as much as I kind of don't like the double clicking and the double campaign pages as a whole, that's a ton of freaking metric money. That's nearly, the whole pledge campaign added into the Pledge Manager. Here's $837,000 during the campaign. The current project view, though, because it says this is an archived one, 1.4. So maybe I actually have an influence on this hobby. I don't really think I do. I think I'm too small and too stupid to do so. But that's a lot of people, hopefully, late pledging. Hopefully upgrading their $1 pledge in the pledge manager when they see more info of what they like. That's still a lot of money, though. That is literally almost 100%. That's probably 80% of the total pledges originally in the pledge manager. And that, folks, is an insane value. I don't care what campaign, what name of company you are in the first place. So where are things at, though? Well, production check-in number 2 here at the latest update as we go at the time of me filming this. So production is maybe kind of going on. 3-week rescheduling of paper components. So maybe end of year-ish is kind of what this looks like. Maybe if things go right. Maybe. That's the tricky point. And again, who cares, right? Just as a random update. I mean, it's 6 months over. They said April. It's going to be November. And do you care? No, you don't. You've forgotten about your free loan that you gave them anyway. And if you're, an upgrader and you're just an expansioner, well, it's not going to be too much. If you're one of those deluxeifiers who's getting in on this campaign, well, maybe you are itching and chomping at the bit, but you have 16 other games that you haven't played that have come within the last 2 months that you can play in the meantime. I'm just fighting words. So, I mean, that's a great test of, do you need an expansion style of things more than anything else? Which, again, leads me to the segue that we covered in the news video earlier last month, I think. Second editions, right? Or in this case, I don't know, is this like 4th edition? Went over on BackerKit, and we've got Innovation Ultimate. I bought the Innovation Deluxe probably a month or month and a half prior to this campaign. And I didn't get scalped, too badly. And I definitely didn't get it as cheap, though, once the campaign was announced and people wanted to sell their dead weight and get the new edition, because not backwards compatible, adding a new era, also changing some errata around, changing some of the design, and just better edition, right? That's what it's supposed to be. And BackerKit, no reason or incentive necessarily to do it, except from, not really maybe going to be super widely available, just like Innovation Deluxe wasn't available post-campaign either. But that just kind of left me with a little bit of a bad taste, because, I mean, again, that's the issue right now with a lot of games. Do you even bother going the first time around? I raised that question with Grim Coven, with the subsequent repeats that Awakened Realms has done with pretty much all of their established IPs previously. I wouldn't be surprised if in 2025, for example, we see some sort of add-on expansion standalone to ISS Vanguard in that sense, right? We've seen it with Tainted Grail. We've seen it with the Nemesis. We've seen it with all of those already. And similarly with Simon, right? Like I just mentioned, the Cthulhu's, the Uniteds, the zombie side iteration after iteration. So we're seeing it now with Innovation, but I'll make the argument that no matter which one it is, do you ever really need the first edition, right? Oathsworn. Grim Coven. I don't know. Because this is inevitably what happens. If it's successful, Townsfolk Tussle, you just wait. And you either get it from somebody who has deep regrets, or you just wait for it the second time around, because again, it's not like you have a shortage of stuff to play in the meantime. So, it did really well, though. Let's not kid ourselves. For BackerKit especially, which gets hardly any acclaim, Asmati got $250,000 for this reprint. I was looking at this right here. It ended on September 15. So if it launched in July, that would be, essentially like almost a 2-month project there, which Pledge Manager is, well, kind of maybe open. This is 4 months ago as a creator update, and I just don't really like these BackerKit pages of how they're designed, but let's see where things are at. Overdue for an update. First concept with the insert's not even done. Box isn't done. Rendering of this is still going on. Expansion, setup, stuff like that. So, yeah, they were proofreading 3 months ago. The rule book didn't really even get done until like recently. This was just over a month ago. And they're letting you basically kind of do it yourself. You want to put some feedback on it from that aspect of things. Crowdsourcing the editing on this side of things. But that's going to be sort of, fine, I guess. and they're got some lockdown of the stuff, even though they're not really in production yet. So I don't know. I mean, this is all over the place. I have no clue when you're going to be able to get this at this point. Can't even tell. I hate backer kit pages. I can't even tell when it was supposed to be due. I'm just clicking all over the place on backer kit pages trying to figure it out. You were supposed to get it at some point, you know, probably this year, but it's not going to be available this year. You're not going to get it this year, and that's okay. But do you miss that? Did you regret, or did you not have played your base game of innovation 37 times yet to have enough need for variability or expansion content? Backer kit pages, to me, maybe I'm the outlier again, as I usually am. I'm the outlier, the idiot, and the asynchronous person in the first place. They're just so unintuitive, like even worse than GameFound, right? So take that for what you will. Then Stonespine Architects from our friends over at Thunderworks. It's sitting right over there. It's sitting like right there on that shelf. I reviewed it earlier this year. Just a nice map layout in the role player adventure universe with some enemies. Again, my big criticism, it was a fine game. Big criticism, though, was that the enemies, and, you know, it was just sort of a random set collection. The traps, there wasn't any differentiation between them. Just small things like that. Then again, the mini expansion offers some niceties, and it's a very pleasant, light, friendly game. And to be fair, you know, if you offered me this or role player, I might lean slightly this way, because my whole issue with role player is, as good a game as it is as a whole, it really needs an expansion to give it some sort of difference, you know, making, because otherwise my wife and I played that and we would always just like get the exact same thing, because you could just optimize basically without too much difficulty, and the expansions make you a little bit more going over bumpy road, if you will, and make it a little bit more difficult. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. You know, I'd be happy to get rid of it. I'm also not like eager to get rid of it either, if that makes sense. And Thunderworks does a really good job at getting it on time. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And we'll go to the next one, which was also over on GameFound, the new Coloma Deluxe Edition, which, again, Coloma was one of those games when it came to crowdfunding, I was like, I know I've heard of this game. But is it actually that good? And, you know, it's hard to tell because it has Coloma Deluxe Edition, the Coloma Ducks, right? That's like the Mighty Ducks only. Anyway, but Coloma originally as a 2019 game is still in the top 700 games of strategy overall, and relatively well thought of from Final Frontier. I guess the question, though, is when you've got a game that came out in 2019, a deluxe version that came out in 2019, and then you put out another edition 5 years later, is that really necessary? It's cool and all as a remake of also a previous game called Hangtown, but now they gave us, well, a new Prospects expansion with new buildings, trails, and going back to the Old West to just kind of become better with your deck of cards as a whole. So advanced engine building mechanisms that are going to be offered here. I don't have a lot of association with this game. I don't really know much about this game. I can't speak to it from that side of things. I mean, it did relatively well, all things considered. $292,000. The interesting thing, though, is if, you know, as I was just talking about the difference, 175, and this one actually over here is 175. Original campaign here is 174. So $21 difference right now. That's weird to me, but it is what it is. Again, I don't know if it's because the pledge manager isn't open, so let's check this out right now. What is the latest update here from the beginning of the month at the time of me filming this? So they're coordinating to make sure the files are there and the prototype and mass production are going on. I mean, this again was supposed to be delivered in May. With how many of these campaigns people have done, I just feel like the estimates are not actually realistic whatsoever, and people aren't trying to be realistic on a good portion of them, it feels like, because none of this stuff, if it was realistic, none of this stuff even seems to be remotely landing within a couple months of when it should be due. So either people are just that much of more of an optimist than I am, because again, I'm glass half empty as a whole. My wife is the glass half full in the relationship, but that just means that, again, maybe there isn't as rush when they've already got the money and they want to put out a good product. We'll go with that. That's the glass half full. They want to put out a good product, so they're taking their time and making sure all their I's are dotted and T's are crossed, not because things are coming to crowdfunding way too early and not fully fleshed out in terms of rule books or anything else like those. But that's not the issue whatsoever. Are you excited, though? Do you need an expansion for this? Outside my wheelhouse, One of the bigger ones of the month, though, as you can see, almost $300,000. So I need to mention it at least. Then the last one here from 2023, Founders. Founders from This Way. I mean, the other thing that just we saw with This Way was that they just did Ice 2.0. And this was a completely different, just very strategic, very obtuse abstract style game where you're laying down these patterns and trying to make odd designs. And that's the best way I can describe it. And I don't mean that as a negative. I just mean that as it was one of those games where what you're doing and then how you're actually doing it are a lot more difficult. It reminds me of one of the games I have sitting right back up under here, Factory Funner, right? All you're doing, Chris, is you're just connecting these things to make loops with tiles on a hex-based grid situation. Duh, that's easy. It should take half an hour. The most brain-burning game I own. And that's how I feel like this one was a little bit too, in a tile-laying abstract pattern style. In just a different way, actually. It's kind of very similar when you label them both like that. And again, it's not going to be for everybody, because I'd argue that just like with Factory Funner, 30 minutes of brain burniness is, you know, sometimes an hour and a half or 2 hours of, just lighter stuff as a whole. But is it going to be your ilk? Because if you didn't go into this knowing, again, it's going to be tricky. And the different patterns and the who gets what, and that some are maybe slightly easier or not than others, depending on, again, how your mind works in sort of a Rubik's Cube style of manner. Because again, Rubik's Cube, some people can just do it, some people just don't do it, right? Like the slide puzzles, I just can't do them. Nearly $100,000, so probably the lowest funding probably in this whole video as a whole, but just because they did so well with Ice, you know, worth mentioning and worth saying, just because it's also something different. Unfortunately, the last update at the time of filming this is, towards the end of May, so about 2 months earlier than this. And, well, they're back on track, essentially, because they had the Ice Unlimited campaign, and now they're turning all of their attention back towards Founders. Never like seeing that as a backer. Like, we got diverged elsewhere, so now we've got the main priority for the next 3 months doing this one. I would worry about this one at the higher player counts. I don't really know. Pledge Manager is still open. Again, not because it's an issue, but again, the analysis paralysis style of this as a whole. But doesn't really necessarily say kind of where things are at, except for the fact that the files haven't been sent to the printer. So Pledge Manager still open in August. And when was this supposed to be delivered? Unfortunately, I'm going to look here. End of year. Okay. So, I mean, that's a heck of a long time, 1.5 years out, again, for an abstract sort of game with some asymmetric powers. But they'll probably be somewhat accurate, at least when you're going to get it. So take that for what you will. So now let's go back a little bit further. Let's go back to 2022. And thankfully, this time around, all of these are delivered. Especially that one. So that one was a close call, right? I'm joking. It was a print and play. Anyway, but what were the big ones from 2 years ago now? We're going to start off with Chip Theory, because Chip Theory is running currently. Chip Theory was running concurrently back then too. Not including the inflation for the strategist pledges. It was $750 this time. It used to be like $5, and then it used to be like $6 or something. Anyway, I don't pay close enough attention. I'm not spending that much for the hopium of future campaigns to make my money back that way. But Burncycle with the reprint. This was a very interesting test of the market for me personally, because as someone who doesn't digest a ton of media, right? I see a ton of it, but I'm not digesting it necessarily. So I'm sort of this weird blend of that as well as consumer, and on this side of the camera, there was so much hype for this game. I see this probably 2 or 3 times a year where it just seems like games all of a sudden just get this huge swell of hype. And again, not judging one way or the other, but just stating, like, I just see it. And it always makes me go, It always makes me go, I wonder. It always makes me just wonder why this one over other ones, because it's not like always the obvious ones that get it, right? It's not. And so that's just always intriguing to me, because my brain just wonders about these things. And again, I'm getting off topic here, and you don't want to care about my crazy, stupid brain. But it was one of those, and I said, okay, well, based off the amount of positivity, right? Like, this should be killing it gangbusters style, because, you know, sort of this AI, you know, hacking, but also overworld situation, offering you more of a good thing, but also sort of the chip theory sort of thing we've seen. It's that, you know, the errata with the second time around, just like we were talking about with the other games. I mean, that seems a commonplace, especially in crowdfunding. And then it launched. And again, it's one of those weird game found campaigns, just like I had Coloma pulled up, where there's not really a whole lot of difference between this one and this one. So I thought these were all different, and I thought these all got updated, but maybe they don't. What's the, you know, dealio with that, I guess? I don't have a clue. But again, like, this was hyped. If you remember, I just remember seeing just like everything super glowingly endorsing. As I said in one of the other videos I put out earlier this month, like, sometimes I feel like we get our heads stuck in the sand, right? The emperor's new clothes, essentially, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like I try to just be myself, and, you know, I'm still a consumer at heart. And my taste is just, I feel like, a lot different than other people's in general. I won't compare myself to anyone directly, not throwing shade at anyone again. Again, this is one that I feel like there was just some disconnect between backers and media. And I don't know how to explain that. I don't know how to explain that. I'm not going to try and justify it or explain it, or just that taste being different, right? And I don't know. Or price, maybe just price and content wise. But it just boggles my mind when it gets that. At the same time, I mean, that's good. That's good regardless. But again, it's just one of those where expectations of what I think, it never meets, you know, where things are at. Because you could make an argument that that's probably a little bit lesser than I would have expected, especially as a second time around. So, I mean, that's fine. April 2023, though. And they did a fantastic job, except, I mean, it was, you know, October of 2023. So, Burncycle, though, where does it stand now? And, I mean, it stands pretty well, right? You know, 8.0 rating. But again, I'd make the argument that this is a very niche game, right? The only people that are going to buy this game are potentially people that are going to love it in the first place. The only people that are going to buy the expansions for this game are going to be the people that are already rating it 9s and 10s. All right? Like, there's not many 6s or 7s that are going to buy an expansion for a game this heavy and this, all of it, right? And so there's a little bit of biasness just from that aspect of things. I mean, 1,500 on Board Game Geek is fine. And partially, you know, that's due to just, you know, small end size, small sample size, if you will, of only 1,200 ratings. So, again, is this as accessible as you'd like? I mean, that's probably the big thing with Hoplomachus, because that's what I've heard with a lot of these games, the Burncycles, the Cloudspires, the Hoplomachuses, the Too Many Bones, that people prefer them at the 1-player count. That's not me, folks. That's not me. That's the best, you know, clicking right here, best at 1, best at 2, right? Like, recommended. I mean, this is, you know, the massive percentage right here. I don't know. It's also a 4 weight rating. That's too much for me. That's too much for a lot of people. Does that factor in? I don't have a clue. It's one of those games where if I was single, unmarried, living alone, bachelor style, maybe I'd consider it. I just don't have the everything else for it as a whole. And that's okay. I've made my peace with that because, you know, again, part of this hobby is saying this is what I can get played. Not just this is what I can buy because I have way too much disposable income, the hotness, the clicks, the what I think I'm going to like versus the actuality of it. So I'm getting slightly better on that. But again, truth be told, right? The temptation is still there. And I've said this previously and I'll say it again. 20 Strong Tanglewoods is running concurrently. Unstoppable just ended. Both games that I think are going to be very solid games. And I think I could get a lot of clicks on if I backed it and got it earlier than if I picked it up at retail, or maybe, probably not, got a review copy at some point way down the line, further after everyone else got their copies. But I don't want to back stuff for that reason. That I have way too much other stuff to do, family wise, work wise, kid wise, than to do that. And again, just to be clear, again, not throwing shade, just saying, you know what? Other people can cover this really well and you can go there and get their coverage. I just can't do it because I know my own internal motives and I want to be completely transparent with you about my own internal motives because that's just where my head's at with some of this stuff. Moonrakers Titan expansion, the 3 expansions. to go with the base game of Moonrakers. I mean, coincidentally, now going up currently, just like Chip Theory with that 2 years ago timing cycle of things, Brink. And so we're now seeing the deluxification. We saw the deluxification with Titan. And I'd argue that, again, like, I'll be completely transparent with you without pulling it up right while I'm talking here, but I will when I'm done talking here, so I don't make a complete fool of myself in the middle of the video talking about something I can't fully remember. 2 of those expansions I really liked. The other one I wasn't as nearly as big on as a whole. Binding Ties, Overload, Nomad. Nomad was a little bit of the weird one. Gave you different contract system, prototype parts, overhauling the global events, new events every round, policies that get voted on. Okay. Overload, just more of all the cool stuff, right? More more, not stroking, I swear, more technological advances, more advanced action cards, contract types, and iospheres. So great stuff from that aspect. And actually, it was, I think it was Binding Ties, the one that I didn't really like as much. More rewards from allying with each other, but it gave more of that dynamic as well too. And that was my big problem with Moonrakers in general. It's just that, again, I don't really always have the great dynamic of a group, to play the tag along, the negotiation. That was my big, just, own lack of available people that had really enjoyed the negotiation of Brink. Again, right? Like, know your group, know your table. I think they're all relatively well thought of. I mean, they've all got 8+ ratings, 8.6, 8.6, and 8.7, each with like less than 100 ratings on Oregon Geek. So, I mean, again, they're very similar to Veiled Fate, where I'd argue that probably if you really like Moonrakers, or if you were on the fence with Moonrakers, these are ones that are going to make you more enjoyable, more appeal in general. But again, how do you feel about expansions being necessary? And expansions when you've got them already deluxified in the first place, which is going to cost you even more of an arm and a leg to get it fixed in that way. You know what I mean? So that'd be the biggest issue. Not that that's, again, bad stuff. Not that it's, not going to make a good thing better. But how do you feel about that, right? Like, I mean, you could make the argument with Lords of Waterdeep. If you want to play without Scoundrels of Skullport, well, I don't blame you. And if you don't want to pay for both of those, it's completely fine. Just you don't get it at all. And nothing wrong. But that's the question you have to ask with something like this too. Again, how do you feel about expansions, expansion content, necessary expansion content for further gameplay? Or can you just get enough out of the things that you have already, because you're not going to play it 20 times, in a year anyway, let alone have your H value of your games be 20 in the first place. I'm fighting words. Anyway, I mean, but again, you're going to pay a deluxified price with Ivy Studios. So does that matter to you when you're looking at it from all of these aspects? I don't know. Aquamarine, we'll talk about it. This is the print and play, right? From Postmark Games. It's a underwater diving print and play. It's fantastic. I love it. I laminated it. I was a backer. Matt. I don't have anything else to say. It's a good game. And the best part was that, they include all future content. It's over on their website right now for £4. There's like 3 or 4 maps. They have a Discord. People have, created additional ones. I don't know, like even for their other 2 games. And it just really does a good job from that aspect of things. And I'm happy to support them. I did Voyages and I did Waypoints from them too. Again, all £4, all over on their website. Just one of those lighter, my wife really loves this style of game as a whole. They're just really easy to get to the table, really easy to learn, really easy to relearn. And I can't really argue with that aspect of things, right? It's an easy play as opposed to a lot of the other stuff we've talked about in this video. So it's worth a highlight, worth a mention. And you know what? If you got a nice color printer and you laminate it, it's freaking awesome. I kind of wish more deluxe print and plays that put stuff out. Sort of like Cascadito, which is sitting behind the camera right now from Bitewing, doing the dry erase thing, as opposed to the 100 sheets on a pad sort of thing. So that's my preference, but I know the cost is there too, so take that for what you will. So we got 2 more. One from one of my favorite companies, Level 99 Games, Dead by Daylight. This is one of those where, thankfully, as much as I love Level 99 Games, I have absolutely no interest in the horror genre, pretty much. And I have absolutely no interest in this IP as a video game. And, it's one person's a killer and they're trying to hunt all the other players trying to survive. And they basically ported this video game over to the tabletop. And they said, okay, we're going to give you a straightforward retail version and a deluxified version with a ton more content that's, probably much more worth your value. You're just trying to survive up to 1 versus 4, essentially. Props, aids, survivals, all you're going to need to navigate, but also each killer has an asymmetric ability to, take you out. how are you going to configure things, and what are you going to do? Because again, like I wasn't kidding, base game it says 7 survivors, collector's edition 17, base game 6 killers, 16 killers, 2 maps, 4 maps. So that's a lot of different content there. Because I think the price was, I think it was actually probably a little bit less than double. So you're looking at literally over double the content and less than double the price. So sheerly from that aspect of things, I think it was fine. The main thing that I have heard, because I haven't heard a whole lot on this one, 7.2 rating on Board Game Geek, is just that, I mean, the rules seem a little bit kind of all over the place, was what I kind of heard. And direct comparisons to the other one that's currently running on the crowdfunding GameFound side of things when I'm filming this, of Terrorscape, doing something very, very, very similar. So, I don't know. This is not one of those that I can necessarily say yes or no to. Conceptually, mechanically, you know, balance is a real issue with one versus alls. And that'd be the big issue, I'd say. And again, when you have video games ported over to the tabletop, how true do they have to be? And how much of those video game mechanisms do you have to adapt, enact, but also to make it appealing from the video game, but not too, you know, the same, but also different enough. But it's a delicate line, and I don't know where or how you would do that with a video game. So, I mean, mixed ratings when I scroll through the ratings on Board Game Geek, but I guess overall, okay. I can't really say anything else more definitively. It's just one of those, again, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on like Coloma. And then, you know what? Last up, Encyclopedia from Holy Grail, which kind of went out of print, but it was still available at retail. Diced worker placement. Basically, you've got sort of your Darwin-esque, evolution of species style of things with dice rolling and randomization and the mitigation thereof that goes along with that, with these colored dice and the animals that you're slowly collecting and placing them on your board. So, your set collections to go along with that, and, well, the publications you're trying to manage at the same time. Again, sort of one of those where I think it's fine. I think it's been received fine. 7.4 on Board Game Geek. So, yeah, you got some luck, you got some mitigation, you've got some of those aspects. I don't really know what else to tell you. Again, it's just one of those in the lines of pretty good Euros. Right? Are you okay with a pretty good Euro? It's got the, environmental earth animal theme going on as all the rage in the last 2 years. So I think appeals to people from that aspect. And the set collection Euro dice worker placement, again, I think appeals. A lot of people like dice worker placement like me that aren't always the typical worker placement people in the first place. So that's an element of things. But again, 1 to 2 hours, 3 rating on Board Game Geek, 7.4 overall with 2,500 people rating it at this time. Yeah, it is what it is. Neither necessarily as high as, maybe hoping for, but I think it's right a middle of the road game. People would be happy to have in their collection, but I'd also make the argument, I haven't heard anyone say, or I haven't heard many people say also, that it's like super outstanding, head and shoulders above other ones that are similar. And that's the dilemma with this. How many of those types of games can you have? I mean, I have plenty of them, but that's the issue, right? I have plenty of them already. What's going to make me love this one more than others? So there you go. That's it. That is the roundup of 2022 and 2023, all in one. Have a great freaking day. Deep regrets, anyone? Stay classy. Let me know how you're doing in the comment section down below. See you around. Peace out.